Hey, it's Mr. Adderall again here with another of our Screencastifies. This one on the Middle Colonies. We've covered New York and New Jersey. Now we're moving on to Pennsylvania and Delaware. So live from my basement. Actually recorded from my basement now I'm thinking about it. Here we go. Pennsylvania and Delaware. Okay, so hey, moving on here. Let's take a look. Pennsylvania and Delaware, right? This is where we left off. This is the second topic of this lesson. Last topic, it's really short, so I think we can get through this one pretty fast. No problem there. So again, we've seen New York, New Jersey, actually Dutch colonies, right? The English take them over, right? Peter Stuyvesant's like, I'm not fighting you, and he decides we're not going to do that. So the English end up in control of what becomes New York and New Jersey. How about Pennsylvania and Delaware? These are your other middle colonies. Okay, so let's take a look at how these come to be. Well, the Quakers, a Protestant group that had been persecuted in England, founded the colony of Pennsylvania. In 1680, William Penn, a wealthy English Quaker, received land payment for a debt King Charles owed Penn's father. Okay, didn't have the cash, gave him land. Pennsylvania, or Penn's Woods, stretch inland from the Delaware River. The new colony was nearly as large as England. So there's your first paragraph. So, hey, first things first in this one, obviously, right? Historical figures. The Quakers, I love the Quakers. These are one of my favorite religious groups. Protestants, persecuted in England. You'll notice I add stuff here that's actually in the second and third paragraph, second or third, called Society of Friends, follow inner light. They're pacifists. They refuse to fight. I actually picked up some of this other information as I went along and added it to the historical figures. You're going to note that it's really not mentioned here other than they're persecuted in England. And that's really all I took from this paragraph. The other stuff I added as I went along. I should point that out. Now, who's the other figure? William Penn, English Quaker. King Charles gave him PA to pay a debt. Established Pennsylvania. Helped establish Philadelphia. Now, once again, this is not all mentioned here. I added the bit about PA for the debt, established Pennsylvania. That does come here. Yes. The bit about Philadelphia I took from another paragraph. So, no, I'm filling in historical figures here. But what was revealed about these historical groups or figures, groups, Quakers, William Penn person, okay, is that it was kind of added to as it went along. And I went back and added that to the historical figures, something to keep in mind. Okay, so how about summarizing this paragraph, right? The Quakers, Protestant group, persecuted, founded colony, Pennsylvania. 1680 Penn, Quaker. Pennsylvania means literally Penn's Woods, right? Large as England. And I kind of got that, again, the first part, and I've told you 2 to 3 bullets, not unusual for a big paragraph. Quakers are Protestants, persecuted. What a shock. That seems to have been going on in England quite a bit in the 1600s. Whether you're a separatist or a Puritan who disagreed with the church or a Quaker, hey, we got a problem with you. So, again, these people are looking for a place to practice their religion. Okay, 1680. Now, let's keep in mind, we started around 1607 with Jamestown. We've come a long way, haven't we? Right? What is this, 73 years of colonization? It's hard to remember when we put this in historical perspective. This has been a while. Okay, William Penn, wealthy Quaker, received land from the king. Created Pennsylvania, or Penn's Woods, inland from the Delaware River. I'm missing one more piece. This is a substantially large piece of land. This is as large as all of England. I'm not even sure Charles was aware what he was giving away here, right? So that's kind of an interesting thing to consider as we move on. Okay, so what's going on here? Let's see. Pennsylvania and Delaware, right? William Penn saw Pennsylvania as a holy experiment. That should sound familiar. That goes back to John Winthrop, William Bradford, and again, back to the Plymouth colony, back to Massachusetts Bay colony. This idea of a holy experiment, right? A perfect society in the New World, right? We've seen this before in New England. Okay, a chance to put his Quaker ideals into practice. There we go, the ideal community. The Quakers, or Society of Friends, believed that everyone was equal. People could follow their own inner light rather than the teachings of a religious leader. Man, I think Anne Hutchinson needed to meet these guys, right? Quakers were also pacifists, or people who refuse to or use force or fight in wars. So, they play it cool. They don't believe in forcing people through violence to do things. They don't believe in serving in the military. You can immediately see the problem they had with the English government. If the English government intended to have them serve as soldiers, their answer was no. So that was a problem. Okay, so what's important in this paragraph? And notice there's no historical figures of a new mention here. I did add a bit about Quakers and a little bit about Penn, mostly Quakers from this paragraph. But really, when I broke down the paragraph for what's important in it, Penn saw Pennsylvania Holy Experiment, Quaker ideals. Notice how I incorporated that immediately into the first bullet. Society of Friends. All were equal. Follow inner light. They don't follow religious leaders per se. They follow their conscience. They follow their soul, what they believe God is telling them from within. Okay, now that's interesting. That is fundamentally different than the Puritans or the Separatists, right, who believed in a kind of rigid structure to their religion. They do not. Should point out, too, the Society of Friends, the handshake was a concept developed by the Quakers, and the handshake is common today. It came from the idea that Quakers believed all men should be treated equally. All men are created equal. Sound familiar? Okay, so this was a Quaker ideal already. So this idea of all men being created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I'm quoting the Declaration of Independence here. You can kind of see where that language comes from when you consider the Quakers' concept of equality of all men. Should point out also that the Quakers were strongly against slavery. And they will become the first real abolitionists later on in the late 1700s, early 1800s. Okay, and you can see why this concept of equality was very important to them. Okay, they were also pacifists. They refused to fight in wars. They refused to use force as a way of getting things done. Okay, so again, note how I've summarized this information. I looked at it, I broke it down to about 3 bullets. I think 2 to 3 bullets is appropriate for a paragraph of this size. Do keep that in mind. So, hey, paragraph 2, done. I'm moving on. Okay, Penn was an active proprietor. We know that's a landowner now, right? In 1682, he sailed to America to supervise the building of Philadelphia, a name that means City of Brotherly Love. Penn designed the city himself. He also wrote Pennsylvania's first constitution. Notice Constitution, City of Brotherly Love, equality. All the things that we think of as American are incorporated, embedded here, right? Penn believed that land belonged to the Native Americans and that settlers should pay for it. He negotiated several treaties with local Native Americans. Okay, once again, pacifist. He doesn't believe you take something from somebody. You earn it in some beneficially friendly and judicial way, if you like, right? In a balanced way. If you want land, you pay for it. Certainly guys like Hooker, Hutchinson, those leaders in New England would certainly agree with William Penn. So what did I do here? Again, no new historical figures here, though it does mention things about Penn, which I plugged into my historical figures. Penn, active proprietor, 1682, built Philadelphia, City of Brotherly Love. Okay, well, I got that part. Penn, active proprietor, 1682, founded Philadelphia. City of Brotherly Love. Designed the city, wrote PA's Constitution. And notice my use of PA instead of saying Pennsylvania. Abbreviations are awesome. Should always use them. Right? So, you know what I'm going to say next. Believed in buying land from natives. Created treaties. So, there's the 3 bullets I got here. I believe that was it. That was it. I'm going to back up a little bit here. Getting ahead of myself. Okay. Yes, City of Brotherly Love. That is the name of Philadelphia, despite the fact they throw snowballs at Santa Claus and they beat up remote-controlled robots going through town. Story for a different day. But yeah, this is the city that's established by William Penn, and it's meant to be a city where people treated each other with love and respect and courtesy. And for the most part, that does occur, except Philadelphia also has an interesting reputation. Some of you might know it. Some of you may have met some certain fans in Philadelphia that are a little interesting. Okay, they definitely love their teams. Let's take that into account, right? So, hey, moving on. Next paragraph, right? Penn advertised his colony throughout Europe. By 1683, more than 3,000 English, Welsh, Irish, Dutch, and German settlers had arrived. In 1701, in the Charter of Privileges, Penn granted the colonists the right to elect representatives to the legislature. Sound familiar, right? House of Burgesses, right? We talked about this with the Mayflower Compact. We talked about this with the General Court in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. We talked about New York getting a legislature, though not until 1691. Yeah, we talked about New Jersey having a legislature as a royal colony. So note this trend in the colonies. It's gonna come back and bite the British. As far as why it's established, we'll talk about that soon. Okay, that's coming up. Philadelphia quickly became America's most prosperous city and its most popular port. This is a quick paragraph. It was rather easy to do, right? Hey, paragraph 4, we only got one more left. Okay, I'm on the last page. I believe I'm on page 72 by now. Advertised colony in Europe. Note the diversity. English, Welsh, Irish, Dutch, German settlers. Okay, 1701, Charter of Privileges. Right to elect reps to legislature. Notice the use of the abbreviations. Philadelphia becomes a prosperous and popular port city. Next to New York, Philadelphia was probably one of the most important ports, okay, in the Americas at the time. So, something to keep in mind. So, hey, there's paragraph 4. We only have one left. This one's a short one, right? There's only one topic. That's it. It's just Pennsylvania and Delaware. And people from Sweden had settled land in southern Pennsylvania before the Dutch and then the English took over the area. So, they're Swedish settlers. Didn't talk too much about them, but they're there. Penn allowed these southern counties to form their own legislature. Once again, right? This idea of self-rule. The counties functioned or worked as a separate colony known as Delaware, right? The 3 counties of Delaware, way down here below New Jersey, right there. However, Delaware remained under the authority of Pennsylvania's governor. So they had their own separate legislature, but the governor of PA is also the governor of Delaware. A little weird, but it worked, and it made the people of Delaware very happy to have their own legislature. Interesting fact. We'll talk a little bit more about that later with North and South Carolina. A very similar thing happens there. Okay, so, hey, that kind of wraps it up with this summary in paragraph 5. Swede settlers settle southern PA, before Dutch and English. Penn allowed them their own legislature, worked as a separate colony called Delaware under PA's governor. Bingo, done. I had 2 bullets there. That was it. I'm finished with this lesson. So, hey, if you got this far, you're really doing well. Okay, so Pennsylvania and Delaware, some things to keep in mind. I wanted to point out once again, like New York, like New Jersey, we have this diversity of people. Here you can see between 1700 and 1709, even here in this small pie chart, English, Irish and Scots-Irish, Welsh, German speakers, Swedes, Dutch, French. Okay, Pennsylvania has a diverse population. So when we think about the New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, we should look at this and realize, holy cow, this diversity that exists in these middle states still exists today. So this isn't something unusual for our region. It's actually something that defines it. Okay. Hey, so that wraps up this lesson. We are done with the middle colonies. Our next stop is going to be the southern colonies, which basically wraps up about 3/4 of our unit. We're almost there. Okay. Excellent job, and I'll see you next time.